Hello, everyone. I'm Joan Turner, bookkeeper of the Greater Haverhill Arts Association, and we do a special podcast with our members. And with me today is Miss Barbara Brissenden, and I have been looking forward to talking with you, Barbara. GHAA is a very active art association. Even through COVID, we kept plugging right along, and we did a lot of things, online. And real time on FaceTime, so on and so forth. So anyone who wants to know more about the GHAA can just key in www.ghaa.art. Okay, and that will bring you to our very cool website. So for today, I want to say hi, Barbara, and welcome. And how
Thank
are
you.
you today? This
I'm
cold weather?
Yes, I'm doing well. Thank you.
Doing well. Very good, very good. So let's just get right into it. I always like to know how and what age were you? How did you get into artwork? I mean, my mother used to tell me I would draw like on walls and stuff with crayons. Did you do stuff like that? I got into so much trouble.
I didn't draw on the walls,
Just
but I have been. Um, Colored pencils was a very popular medium back in the day, and I do remember in like probably sixth grade having to do a map of the United States, and I made sure every single state had a different colored color pencil, and it was very intent on making it look beautiful. But beyond that, my memories are really of I've done watercolor painting, or what I thought was watercolor painting, might have been paint by numbers, with water, but
yeah, yeah.
did saw images and tried to paint them, and all the rest. And so it was really from my own direction. I was I guess self
Self-taught. So,
driven, not
so
taught, self driven.
self-driven. Did
Um,
you have artists in your family, like mother, father? Just,
no, no,
oh,
no.
you're the first.
Yeah, yeah. But in high school, I ended up getting selected for different special art courses, if you want to say that. I don't know how that came to be, but it just did. And so that kind of um, offered me other opportunities. I learned how to do cartoon art and a couple
Nice.
of the different things. And that sort of kind of kept the ball rolling so that I was, okay,
Okay,
maybe
I
we
can
we
do
got
this.
something here. So,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah, and it's something that you enjoy doing. I think
yes,
that
yes.
that
Mhm.
makes a big difference. You're more likely to plug along and do what you got to do if you're enjoying what you're doing, right?
Right,
So
right,
totally.
right.
So how old were you? You were a teenager in high school?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Did you take art in high school?
No, other than the art class that was offered, that
Art
was your
class.
general
Okay.
studies class. I didn't do anything extra or special or anything like that. I
So
just
did
took.
you take art courses after that?
No, actually, I haven't really done many art courses at all. So, what I have done is then there was, went to college. I don't think I did very much art during college. I don't really have any memories of that. And then as a young adult, I I ended up in South Africa, mainly because in high school I was an exchange student. I was sent to South Africa, and then after when college was done, I went back to visit that same host family. And while my during my time there, I met my future husband. And then what ended up happening is I returned to the United States, and then I went back to South Africa to live with him to see if we were meant to be to get married. And during that time frame, I decided, like I'd like to do painting again. I found an artist in South Africa, in Johannesburg, who was offering classes. And I put that in quotes because it wasn't a direct instruction, and then the students do what the instructor does. She opened up as basically her studio. She said, come do art. I'll be here to critique, give you suggestions, give you guidance, but you bring your own stuff, you bring your own paints, you bring your own ideas, you do it. I'm here to be, I guess, a mentor or your support.
Totally.
It's like, okay, sounds good to me. And so that's where I started with actually doing classes, if you want to say, and support. And then when I returned back to the United States, I sought out similar types of support, instruction, mentorship, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
and all. And then I've been a student for many years with Susan Nealand, who then I got more, I guess, formalized instruction
Sure.
initially.
Yeah.
And
She
now I
does well.
really continue to work with her from a critique standpoint and all.
Nice,
So
nice, nice.
that's been my
Yeah.
journey on how I've become
I
the
think
artist that I
that's
am.
amazing. South Africa, and this one of the reasons that I love doing this podcast is like I would never have even like guessed that, that
Yeah.
that's what you did. But when you went there, it kind of rekindled your the love for art. So it actually was kind of a turning point there.
Yes, it was a very big
Yeah,
turning point. Yes, very much
nice.
so. And
So I
I
gotta
ended up,
ask, he's your husband, right? You decided
yes,
he
he
was
is.
okay.
Yes. Mhm.
Good man, I
Yeah.
like it.
Exported him or imported him here. So yeah,
All
we've been
right.
here
Good,
for
good.
over 30 years. So yeah.
I love it, love it. Okay,
Mhm.
so who Susan Nealon is an inspiration unto herself, but
Oh
is
yeah.
there anything else that inspired you? South Africa, Susan Nealon, probably your husband. Do you have children and stuff like that?
I do. I have two children. They are
You
young
paint
adults
them?
now.
Okay.
My daughter Simone, she's 25, almost 26, and my son Austin, he's 23.
You
So yeah.
totally do not look old enough to have kids that old. I just want to tell you that. Okay. And so do you do portraits? Have you painted them, drawn them?
No, portraiture and people and humans are really not my subject matter. I'm much more nature photography or nature artist. And yeah,
Excuse
things
me.
out in the world, let's put it that
Yeah.
way. I would,
Yep.
but probably
Nice.
more of a nature based.
Yeah. And I think that that's nice. Usually, the reason I ask is sometimes artists will attempt to do their family members. I certainly have done that myself. And you're right. It's nature is much more forgiving as a subject matter,
And
certainly.
static, it doesn't
Yeah,
move
that's
and
it.
say,
Yeah,
hurry up and get the photo done.
get it
So yeah.
done. So yes, absolutely. So as a mentor, you would say Susan Nealon,
Oh
probably.
yeah, very much that she would be my mentor. She's been my support. She's guided me. She's been a wonderful, wonderful,
Yeah,
wonderful
yeah, we did. We
person in my life.
actually did a podcast with her. She's an amazing, amazing person,
Yeah, she
and
is.
we actually did some of them during COVID. And sometimes I actually went to her house because we couldn't get a connection or whatever the heck it was. I remember recording her by phone and having to edit all that. It was wild. It was wild. So you and I, we were kind of moving you around trying to get things set up. That was nothing. That was nothing what her and I went through. Okay. So then I have to ask you, you started out with colored pencils. You did some watercolors. Have you tried any other mediums? Typically, I find that when students kind of feel comfortable with one medium, then they want to try something else.
I've been pretty passionate and loyal to watercolors. I have tried acrylics and have had some success with them, but always go back to watercolor. So
Nice. And
I'm pretty
watercolors
much a
are
watercolorist.
considered, well, watercolors are considered a difficult medium to work in.
Mhm.
So that's a nice thing. Okay. So do you belong to more associations? I know you're a GHAA member, obviously. Have
Yes.
you kind of looked at other associations as well?
Yeah, so in addition to just to finish one other component, in addition to the watercolor, I've also been delving into photography. So for the
Oh,
past
nice,
like
nice.
6 or 8 years, I've been really honing that craft and trying to improve on those skill sets too. So and so now the two really are intertwined and really complement each other. And I've learned a lot from both art mediums
Yeah,
to
totally.
complement and further both of those um, arts.
That I find photography is an art unto itself. But I
Right.
find when people work with both of them, it does seem to add another dimension to
Yeah,
their
it
work. I
does.
mean, we use them as, kind of source documents. Like, my other half has kids that live up in the White Mountains. So every time
Mhm,
we go to see them, there's these beautiful mountains. So we take like 20 zillion pictures. So
mhm.
we use those as source documents. And having the photography there is nice. So
Yeah,
and I mean, I certainly am just an amateur photographer, so I just take pictures of the things I like. So when someone knows what they're doing with photography, then you get a nice composition and you can do something really good. So where do you get your ideas from? Okay, now you got to, where does your inspiration come from? So you do a lot of watercolors. Most of them sound like landscapes, or seascapes, landscape seascapes.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my inspiration for the watercolor came from my pre-photography interest days, let's put it that way. Like we would go on a family trip or that kind of thing, and there would be a photograph that would just capture me from my trips, and I translated that into paintings as a memory of the trip and an interpretation of that. But now that I've moved into doing photography as well, so now the inspiration comes from all different places. I just kind of stumble upon it. So there's no one specific source anymore. So
Yeah,
I've also
but
delved in the photography into more different subject matter. So besides the nature, then there is going to be the macro photography, getting into real small, and then also I've gotten into architectural photography, like taking pictures of different buildings and
really,
different
really, really.
architectural
I
aspects.
was just going to ask
So
you if you like really realistic things. I guess that would be a yes.
yeah, the painting used to have to be really realistic, and now I'm trying to not be as literal, let's put it that way, and make it looser with the
Yeah,
painting.
yeah,
The photography, that keeps vacillating between being really more defined, like the architectural look for symmetry and all the rest, but then I also like taking pictures of landscapes and nature and all that too. So it's a
yeah,
mixture of all those
yeah.
too. So it's not, yeah.
But
The
you're
only thing I think I've added to my collection is the architectural, which makes a whole different angle
whole
of
different
art. Let's put it
angle.
that way. So.
I think you know, some people, when they paint and draw, they're impressionistic. Your work
Mhm.
is on the realistic side.
Yeah, it would be.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
interviewed an artist, and I mean, she showed this piece of artwork that had all this color on it, and I really couldn't make out any shapes. And I said to her, "What was your inspiration for this?" Oh, she was in another country, she was visiting, and this is how she felt when she was there. And there was some like these red areas. I said, "Well, those are the people." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So really impressionistic, and she painted
Hmm.
her feelings, you know.
Hmm.
So I'm more like you. I mean, I loved her work. More like you. I like things to be representational. So if
Hmm.
if I kind of like fantasy stuff, so if it's a fairy, it kind of looks like a person, but I call it realistic fantasy. So
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
um so some of your work, and I haven't seen just a couple of pieces that we were looking at earlier, but yours seems mostly representational as
Yeah,
well.
representational. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So
there was a period I was going through too that I was trying to add more components to the art. For instance, I would paint something on a canvas,
mhm.
like a watercolor canvas, and then add like pieces of paper and different things to kind of add more dimensionality to the
Hmm.
piece, so it almost got the 3D dimension. But I've moved
Okay,
on from
go
that
back.
phase. I'm not
I was
doing
just
that
gonna
as
say,
much.
go back for a second. Watercolor canvas. What is a watercolor canvas?
Well, oh, now, aquaboard. That's what aquaboard and I haven't worked on it in so long. Oh, I'm
I've no
sorry.
one's no one's ever said the words watercolor canvas to me before, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, I mean
Aquaboard, so
yeah,
waterboard.
aquaboard, and what they do is they take the paper and they put it over a wood frame, and
Oh,
so it's watercolor paper, and yeah, and so you paint on that.
so when you do watercolor, typically without the board, it actually you tape it down because it.
Right.
So with a aquaboard, you probably don't have to do that.
Correct. It's all attached to
Oh,
the
okay.
wooden frame, just like an acrylic or an oil canvas would be, that you
Yeah.
take the mislin and put it around
Never
the
heard
frame.
of
So
that. Never
yeah.
heard of that. I'll be
Mhm.
dipped.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna go find one.
Yeah, aquaboard. There's another type too, and I'm totally blanking on the name of that particular material. But anyways, there's two different ones that you
All
can work
right.
on. So yeah. Mhm.
That's cool. I learn something new all the time. Okay.
Mhm.
So what's the best, most fun part of creating your art, and what's the worst?
Um, the fun is that I come up with ideas, of which it's just neat to come up with creative ideas. That I find exciting, that I can come up
So
with
wait,
creative ideas.
let me ask you a question. When you're looking at your pictures, your photography and stuff, do you say,
Mhm.
"Oh gosh, this would look really great as a piece of artwork"? Do you integrate different pictures, parts of pictures into one?
No, it's pretty much one.
Okay,
That's how I started. There have been a
okay,
couple pieces where I did integrate a couple components from different photographs,
yeah,
but usually it kind of stick with one,
okay.
and all, and
I
then
I
want to
would think
translate
so.
that into
All
watercolor.
right. All right, that makes sense to me. I do some teaching at the Drake Council on Aging, and the students there, usually retired people. There's one woman, she was doing just a pencil drawing, but I'm looking at both sides of the picture, and I'm like, God, that is so different. Both sides were totally. She, oh, well, they're two pieces that I put together. I was like,
Mm.
oh, so that's what made me ask you the question. I'm like, is that
Mhm.
something people do often? Sometimes I'll put something.
Sometimes, but it's tricky because of then
Yeah,
you got the
yeah.
lighting and the shadows and
Right,
getting it
right.
all right. If it's
Yeah.
not the same, then it gets really tricky.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
so, but yeah, I mean, I really like the creative process. You know, you start doing a painting, or I take a photograph and I work on the editing, the processing of the photograph. You start off with one thing, and so I'll separate the two. So with the watercolor painting, start off with one idea and continue as I'm painting. I used to be needed to stick with that idea and I really couldn't shift. But then as I've been doing this for years, I've realized that
Easier.
I can shift things, I can remove things. I don't have to paint everything that I see in the photograph. I can take the artistic license
I was
to
just gonna
and,
say, God love
and
artistic license. Yeah.
yeah, interpret it whichever way. And that's been really freeing and really exciting that I've been able
Right.
to evolve to do that. And also, so it's the creative process of working on it. It evolves, it develops maybe into something what I maybe not didn't intend, but then I keep having more ideas of how I want to tweak it and make it
Yeah,
into
totally.
the final product, which is really neat. And with photography, what I find is exciting too is that I start off with a photograph, and then when you go into the editing and processing programs that one uses to process a photograph, um, I can totally change that photograph. And I'm more frequent with the photographs. I can really totally change that the colors, the lighting, the shadows, and I can really make it something totally different than what I started.
So are you
And
using
that's been exciting.
that? Yeah, that sounds exciting. Are you
Mhm.
using like a software program?
Yeah, I use
That makes sense.
Lightroom. I
Ah,
use Lightroom
Lightroom.
to edit the
The
photographs. Yeah.
photos. Okay. All right,
Mhm.
that's excellent. So what's the hard part? What's the part you wish you could skip?
Sometimes I tend to be a very structured person, and sometimes things get a little too lined up, symmetrical, and too much the same. And
Okay.
I work hard on trying to making sure if I'm like putting leaves on a branch that not every single leaf looks exactly the same. It's got to go in different directions. You can see part of. So I've worked really hard on trying to not have everything look exactly the same.
Are you a
Um,
Virgo?
yes,
No, you are?
I am.
I love it. I love it. I do exactly the same thing. And I tell everyone, oh, it's my Virgo thing. You know what I mean? So when you're
Mhm.
talking, I'm thinking, oh my God, that is so something I would do. I
Mm,
love it.
mm,
Fellow
mm.
Virgo. Now you know she's good, right?
Yeah. On the flip side, though, the architectural photography draws me in because
Yeah.
I love the symmetry of it
Yep.
all
Yep.
and having everything in line. So I guess I can work on what I worked really hard not to do in watercolor painting. I can now
You
meet
have
that
the
need through my
freedom.
photography. Let's put it that
I
way.
was just going to
Balance
say
me
that in
off.
photography, you have the freedom to do that. See, because like,
Right.
well, it's a picture, I didn't do it. It's my picture. That's awesome. Awesome. Okay, so the fun part is going through the creative process, and the
Yes.
hard part is to become a loose woman.
Yes. There you go. Only with the painting, though.
Only with the painting. Let's make that perfectly clear.
Yes.
Okay, she is married. All right. So
Mhm.
that is totally. Do you have a favorite piece of your own art?
I have a favorite piece. Well, I've had the one of the first pieces I did, yes, has been a favorite, and it's been a family favorite. It's been the painting that's been up above the fireplace, above the mantle
I
for
love
many,
it.
many, many, many years.
And how
Of which
now you did
I
that
do
many,
have.
many years ago. I have a piece I did when I was 17, and we don't want to know how long ago that was. But when I look at it now, I kind of cringe because artistically speaking, it's not that good. I was only
Mhm.
17. So the work I do now hopefully is a lot better. But
I'm
we
sure.
still have the picture that I did when I was 17. So
Mhm, mhm.
do you notice artistically that this older piece, how I don't know how old it is, but
Yeah, I don't know how old it is either because I didn't date it back when I did it, but it's over 10 years. And all.
oh, okay.
So so artistically, well, my perception of it was such an achievement to have painted this.
Yeah.
And when I brought the idea um, to Susan, who helped mentor me through this, she was concerned that what my conception of what the final product was going to be, that would I be able to achieve that? Would I be able to do what I wanted to do to produce this? And all the rest. And in the end, we both surprised ourselves because so I consider the painting such an achievement that I don't think I have the objectivity anymore to constructively
Okay.
critique
I
it to see
actually
like how
like
much
that.
it's changed.
Yeah, I
Sorry?
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I so it's hanging somewhere. Do you
So
have it? Like,
that's one of the ones I've showed you earlier that I think I could hopefully can
oh,
show
okay,
you. So
cool, cool. All right.
so I can either try to bring that up now or in just a
Yeah,
little
I
bit,
was gonna
whatever you want.
say, can we see it now? It'd be cool to show
Yeah,
some
let me
people
try
while
to
we're talking about it.
let's see if we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
get this up
See, we can
to
do
work.
it.
Yeah.
We really appreciate
All right,
this
let's see
because,
if the no. Okay, we're gonna have to change our
oh yeah, yeah,
settings.
change the focus a little bit. We were, while she's doing that, let me
Oops.
tell you that we were kind of playing around with the settings a little bit so that we could get a really good view here. The best way to view them, obviously, is in person. Yeah, that is beautiful. That's absolutely gorgeous. It doesn't look like my 17 when I was 17-year
Yeah.
old painting at all. Much better.
So
That's
yeah,
beautiful. I actually can see it pretty good. I see a little bit
yeah,
of a
of
reflection.
glare from
But
the
this is
light, but
nice.
anyways,
Yep,
whatever. It's
nice,
good
nice.
enough.
So
So
this is a watercolor. It's a
yes, it was.
watercolor.
Yeah, it's a watercolor,
Huh,
and yeah, so and it's a
nice.
family favorite, so
Yeah.
that's also why.
So did that come from a reference photo? Is that a real place?
Yes, it is a real place. It is. My other inspiration comes from Switzerland. I have a lot of family there and have had pleasure and uh, the luck, if you want to say, to have been able to go there many
Nice,
times over my lifespan and
nice.
all. And so a lot of the nature inspiration comes, excuse me, from visiting there. And then when I go there, I come home with a lot of ideas of what I'd
I
like to
bet.
paint.
I bet. I bet.
So
Well, that's amazing. That's an amazing thing. So that one's your favorite art, and when
yeah.
I was going to ask you what makes it so special for you, but now I know the answer to that. So my next question I like to ask artists: do you ever have slumps or dry spells in your art, or are you always creative? You're always in a creative state of mind.
I think I don't know about slumps, but I feel like sometimes I'm not producing as quickly. Let's put it that way. I mean, it takes me a while to do paintings. I don't do them really fast. And also, I feel like there's times where I can produce paintings quicker, and then other times where I take a really long time to get one
Yeah,
done. So
yeah,
that would maybe be a slower period.
okay.
I
But
don't
you
know.
don't really
So
have artist blocks.
so far, I haven't. I've come to the wire where it's been like, oh gosh, what am I gonna choose next to paint? But usually that pressure kind of pushes me over the edge, and I find something. So
Every time I ask an artist that, they always say yes. You're the first one who has answered, and I answer that way too. I actually have, I had a lot of students. I still have some students, and they keep me very interested. They try different things, and
mhm.
so they'll do something. I go, oh, I want to do one of those. So I don't necessarily experience a block, but there are times when I just want to paint and draw all the time, and then there's times when I don't have to do that, but I
Mhm.
don't necessarily. And you sound similar, that there are some times when you just want to keep painting and other times where it just takes a little bit of time. So
Right. I also work full time, so this is
I
something I
was
can
gonna
only do
say, yeah.
on
So
the side.
I knew that you worked full time. So
Mhm.
when do you do your art? Do you do it like
Yeah.
in the evening or the weekends? When do
In
you
the
have time to
evenings,
do
yeah, in
this?
the evenings or on the
You must have
weekends, yeah.
lots of energy. Phew. At the end of the day, someone's gonna be you have a lot of energy, so I go, go, go. But the minute I stop, that's it. I fall asleep. You must
Mhm.
have a lot of energy.
Well, I try.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Obviously, you do very nice. I know you have another piece over there. Can we see? Can we see?
Oh, right. Yes.
Oh, that's
Let's get that
that's
one.
look.
What's this one? Oh, this goes to the architectural side of photography.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so it is that.
That's lovely.
And actually, interestingly enough, this is the law library in the University of Zurich.
Of
The,
Zurich. And were you
the
in
law
Zurich?
library at the University of Zurich, and it's actually a very famous law library because of the design of the architect that built this.
Uh-huh.
And also, there a lot of photographers go to this particular law
Oh,
library to
is
photograph.
this piece a photograph? Is this a picture or
Yeah,
a
this is a
artwork?
photograph. This is a photograph.
Oh, okay. I was gonna be that looks like a photograph.
Yeah,
That's
I didn't
amazing.
paint this one.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very beautiful. Your work is absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous.
Oh, thank
So
you.
another favorite question of mine is what, in your opinion, young lady, makes an art piece successful? And what is like, you know? And the answers I get to this always intrigue me. So what if you look at a piece of artwork, it doesn't necessarily have to be your own. If you look at a piece of artwork, how do you know, okay, this is a good piece, this is a successful piece or not?
Let's see. What makes a successful piece? A piece that draws me in because of either the colors or the lighting and all the rest. It makes me, I want to look at that a little bit more. Um, and then I always take the step back to really appreciate it because that's where you can really take it all in. Um, I tend to look for shapes and colors and composition. Subject matter doesn't usually affect me 100% because I like more, like I said, the shapes, colors, and composition
Mhm.
and all. Um, I think if a piece makes you think like, how did they do that? Or where were they? Or what angle? Or how did they take that? Or how did they get that view? I think that sometimes also makes it a successful piece for me because I like to have to think about it a little bit more. I mean,
Okay.
I would like the viewer to, I'm thinking about my own art. I would like the viewer to be engaged and want to be interactive and kind of like look at it more than just a passing
Feel
glance.
something. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I agree with that. Someone, the reason I ask everyone that is someone asked me that, and I said, this is a typical Virgo answer, I guess. I said, well, if I like it, it's a success. If I
Yeah.
don't, and
Yeah,
then they just
exactly.
laugh. But
Hmm.
you kind of said the same thing. What would make me
Hmm.
like it is if it drew out a feeling or made me
Hmm.
wonder about the characters. Absolutely. So that's
Yeah.
a great answer. I get all kinds of good answers from people. Totally awesome, awesome. So let me ask you, do you teach? Would you consider teaching? I know right now you're working full time, but down the road or something on that idea, someone saw you out and said, "Oh my God, I love that. Teach me how to do it."
Uh, no, I don't teach, and I don't know if I have the skill set to be able to explain. Because sometimes I
Or
look
if
at
you
my
would
own
enjoy
pieces
it.
and wonder, how
Yeah,
did I do that? When I was in it, I got it, but
yeah,
like to be able to
that,
explain to somebody else, how did I do that? Not with painting. With photography, I could. That I can explain more,
okay.
but painting, get caught up in the process, and so sometimes I don't know
Yeah,
how I did it. I just
I
did it.
totally agree. Some people are really good. My brother plays the guitar. I said to him, "You teach me how to play the guitar." He's like, "Yeah." He gave me a chord chart and said, "Here, practice these." So some people, like in his case, they're really good at what they do, but they're
Yeah.
not absolutely wonderful at teaching it to other
Right.
people. So I
Yeah.
think you're right. You have to be in the right mindset. You have to be comfortable enough, certainly, to say,
Yeah.
"Well, I thought about it and did this and that." So
Mhm.
maybe at some point down the line, everyone, We'll keep an eye on her and see what happens.
Never
Now, we talked
know.
a
Yeah.
little bit earlier about access. How can people get a hold of you if they
Hmm.
would like to? And at this point, you said the best way for them to get a hold of you is through your email, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, through my email.
So, what is your email? And put in the punctuation so we know how to get a hold of you.
Yeah. It's Barbara Brissenden Art at gmail.com.
Okay. And
Would you like
Brissenden,
me to spell it?
I was going to say it actually is spelled the way it sounds, but go ahead and
Yeah.
spell it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So Barbara, Barbara, Brissenden, Briss, like in Sam, N as in Nancy, D as in David, N as in Nancy, art, ART, at gmail.com.
You are such a Virgo. Someone asked me what mine was. I was like, JOA, N is in Nancy, S is in Steve, and you're the only other person I've heard do that. I love it. We're kindred souls. She's like, yeah,
There we are. Yeah.
I say kindred souls. Okay,
Mhm.
so let me ask you, is there anything else you would like to tell us about you? Anything else you would like us to know, show, whatever you would like? We are all ears, my dear.
Anything else? I'd say probably art has been the way that I balance my life. Art has enabled
Nice.
me to take a pause, take time for myself, away from raising children, from my crazy job, from everything else that keeps you busy and going. And I've tried really hard over the years to make it a priority, make sure I do it as frequently and as consistently as I can, so that I've got that steady stream of creativity and be able to use my brain in a different way than everyday stuff. And it's really given me that balance that and has helped me to be able to manage all the different things that all different aspects of my life. And it's really
Nice.
grounded me. It's
That,
grounded me
yeah.
and got me support. You did ask earlier if I was a member to other organizations besides
Yeah.
GHAA, and I am a member of the Newburyport Art Association.
Nice.
And I've been privileged enough to have been juried in at various shows throughout the years.
Wonderful.
And that's another thing that I would encourage all artists to do, being one, is to take that leap and put your art out there for critique.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be rejection, but that's part of the game,
I
um, of,
agree.
of evolving. But then putting yourself out there to get the critique so that you can better further your art further, and to really explore your artistic medium more so because you've gotten the critique to hear what's working, what's
Yes.
not working.
And don't you find that most critique is on the positive side anyway? I really like this color combination. The perspective could be a little bit. I find that the critique is very positive in nature. And you're right. I totally agree with you. It's something that students should not be afraid to do. They put themselves out there. So that's
Mhm.
really awesomely good advice.
Yeah,
Truly.
I mean, I've really evolved a lot because of doing that. It took me a long, let me tell you, it took me a long time to be brave enough to go stick my toe in that water.
Yep.
But then when I did, I'm not turning back. I'm just going to keep on going because I
Because
just
you
keep
love it.
learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
love
you
it.
love
Yeah,
to
and
learn.
it's
Yeah.
exciting. And then when you do
Yes.
get juried, and wow, oh my gosh, look what I
It's a,
did, look what happened.
it's a
It
big deal.
was
It's a big
accepted.
deal.
So.
That's right.
Mhm,
I think that's absolutely amazing. And when you were talking about it giving you balance and helping you get through the rough spots of life, this type of
mhm,
thing, um, this senior center that I was telling you about earlier said, would you be interested in taking a therapy, art for therapy course.
mhm,
We'll pay for blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, yeah, of course, because like you, I feel like it's always, yeah, you're always pushing for more information, for
mhm,
more everything. And
mhm,
that was one of the best things that I ever did for myself. So you're absolutely right. It's very therapeutic. It helps you create balance in your life. And I don't know about you, but when I create something that I think is really beautiful, I go, "Oh, I can't believe I did that. I'm so happy at
mhm,
myself."
mhm.
So it's
Yeah,
nice. It's a nice,
yeah.
a nice way to do things.
Yeah, it's a great way to treat yourself and give
Yeah,
yourself positive feedback and make yourself feel good. I mean,
yeah,
the art makes me feel good. It
yeah,
makes me feel
yeah.
good to make it, to
Do
produce
you
it, to go through the process of
go
it.
through the
And
process?
then,
Perfect.
wow, look what happens at the end. Like you
Have
said,
it.
look what I made.
Do you remember the very first art piece you ever sold and how that made you feel?
Oh my gosh, it was over the world. Like, what? Somebody wanted to buy that? You got to be kidding me.
I
Wow.
I made a simple pencil drawing, I think of Cinderella or something. I don't know how old I was. I was like preteen. And someone was having a yard sale and I said, "Can I sell my artwork there?" And they're like, "Yep." So I put it out there. It was just like in a plastic bag or something. And someone bought it for $1,
Oh,
right? I
wow.
was like, someone bought my art. I was so excited to think that someone would part with their precious dollar for for
Right,
something
right.
that
Yeah.
I was going to do anyway, you know.
Hmm.
So
Right,
that
right.
do you remember? Do you remember your first art piece that you sold?
Mine was more in the more recent past, just a couple of years ago, at the
Oh,
Newburyport Art Association. Bought my
nice,
first piece, so
nice,
that was
nice.
very exciting. So
Very
yeah.
cool, very
Mhm.
cool. All right, well, this was a blast. I totally
Yeah,
enjoyed talking to you. Thank you
thank
so
you.
very much.
Thank you
Okay.
very much for having me and
You are most
inviting me to
welcome.
do this. This has been very nice and really rewarding to be able to talk about
Yeah, very
my
nice.
journey.
Very
Mhm.
cool. All right, my darling, I am going to say
Okay.
good night for now. And
Thank you.
again, anyone wants to get a hold of her, her email is Barbara Brissenden at gmail.com.
Art at Gmail. Yep.
Art
Barbara
at
Brissenden
Gmail.
Art. Barbara Brissenden Art at gmail.com.
Barbara
Yes.
Brissenden. All right. Okay, so that should be relatively easy for us to remember.
Yes.
All right, my dear. Good night
Okay.
and stay safe out there.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
This was
Wish you all the
awesome.
best and have a great evening.
Thank you. You
Okay.
too.
Good night.
Good night.